Hey everybody, this is Tom with Rocket Restorations, and today we are going to fix this car. So, a little background. We did a video on this a couple months ago. My dad bought this 1971 Road Runner a couple months ago, and it's a great car. Real rubber bumper car, rear window louvers, spoilers, super neat car. But the problem with this car is the whole front end. Let me show you. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Just had to push a Hemi Cuda across the yard, and it doesn't roll well, even with the engine out of it. Go figure. Okay, back to this car. So, the giant mistake they did on this car is they put a Magnum Force front end on it. And I'll just say, in no uncertain terms, I am not a fan. As I said, I did a whole video on this about why this is so bad and the reasons it's so bad. I'm going to talk about it some more, but I just want to reiterate how bad of an idea it is to do a Magnum Force front end. So basically the premise of this is it's coilovers, the rack and pinion. But the problem is they put the coilovers to the shock tower. And the shock tower is not meant to take that kind of load. I'm actually kind of half expecting to find some damage on there when we take this all apart. So the people who put this thing together decided they were going to do a hot rod with it, and they decided to do the Magnum Force stuff, and it's absolute junk. So what we're doing is we're going to take this thing back to stock. So we've been over the last couple of weeks, we got a bunch of stock components, stock key members, stock torsion bars, control arms, all that fun stuff, and we're going to put it back to stock and put torsion bars in it, just like God and Mopar intended. There'll be a few more things we have to do while it's out too, like that whole Wilwood setup. Nah, we're gonna put that back to stock because I don't like any of that. All right, well, let's pull this thing inside, and Evan's gonna start tearing this thing apart. So I get that Wilwood has the brand, and it's, ooh, 4-piston calipers, all that. But look how tiny that rotor is. Like, there's no stopping power with that. And it's a two-piece design, which is inherently weaker. They're bolted together, so when they can warp a lot easier. There's a reason why. So all the, 70 E-body 71 had two-piece rotors. Well, they went to one piece immediately in 73 because it didn't work because they warped. I mean, look how tiny that thing is. Like, the new rotors, like, that's a factory rotor over there. I mean, I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't know why people spend thousands and thousands of dollars for this stuff when it's not an upgrade in any way, shape, or form. At least in my mind. Can't remember if I pointed this out when we first looked at it, but it actually has air shocks in the back. We're going to be significantly upgrading this car by putting Bilstein shocks on it. KYBs were great and they're cheap, but they just ride really harsh. The Bilsteins are just a much better shock. So that's what we're going to put on here. It's got rally wheels. It should have the red paint around the drums, which it doesn't have, so we'll fix that. And of course, we're going to pull the drums, inspect everything, because while it's up in the air and everything's apart, now's a really good time to go through that stuff. Evan's making some progress in here. Got all the brake stuff off, which one thing I totally forgot to buy was new brake lines, because I forgot that they're totally different, so we need to get that stuff ordered. He's working on the power steering right now. We got to take all the AC off. As I said, we're going to drop this out the bottom, so everything's got to be disconnected. Day one over, working on draining the radiator. Evan's trying to do this where you don't have to break the AC system, but the thing is we're going to have to do that anyways because these lines are dumb. Like, they go over the kickdown. The way they routed that is just, well, dumb, and it's something we're going to fix. So I need to run the lines on the other side. We're trying to figure out how exactly we're going to do that because I'm not entirely sure yet. Factory went over the core support over there, so I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to flip the condenser around. Condenser's down here. Probably just try to flip that around, try to make those lines work, but we'll see what happens. So, but yeah, he's got AC off. He's working on the steering column. The Allen down there was weird, so we don't have the right Allen for that, so I have to find one. That booster looks like crap. I'd really like to send it off to get rebuilt, but the problem is we're trying to do this in a week, just so this car isn't stuck on my lift forever. And sending that out's gonna be a while, so I need to call my rebuilder and see how fast they could do it. Because I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be gold, not black. But I don't know, maybe we'll just paint it black. I gotta do a little more research on that. Here's all the parts that came off. The Wilwood proportioning valve, the mini starter, the plastic master cylinder, and we're gonna put all that stuff back to stock. So, all right, well, until tomorrow. We made pretty good progress on the Road Runner yesterday. Sorry for updates. I was really busy in the shop. Evan was honestly doing most of the work yesterday. So my dad decided to get new tires for it. We got those mounted yesterday. The tires were, 8-9 years old. The tread was still fine, so he decided just to get new tires because I don't want my dad running around on old tires because these tires just don't last as long as they used to. And as a bonus, I'm going to put the old ones on my Superbird because that thing really needs tires. All right, got the rear wheels off. We're gonna go ahead and pull the drums and of course inspect everything, get the red done on the drums. The front coilovers are off. We had a little hard time finding a 12mm socket for that, or Allen, I guess. Fortunately, Jamie had one, so we got those loose. Another thing I noticed, which again makes me extremely angry and annoyed, is they actually cut off the upper controller bump stops. Apparently that's in the way of a Magnum piece, so I need to find one of those now, which is not gonna be easy because I think this is just B-body and E-body, 71 B-body. So I'm going to have to do some research on that, but I'm assuming those are different and I need to find that piece now, which theoretically I could do after I put the suspension in, but it's gonna be so much easier to do it now. A few other things we found. It's gonna be kind of hard to see here, but there's a bunch of brake leakage on the frame rail. So the paint's completely gone on there. So we're gonna go ahead and fix that while we're in here. Everything else actually went apart pretty easily. So the coilovers were a little bit of a pain in the butt, but everything else went out pretty good. Radiators over there, a little 22, because no reason to get a 26. No axle package and no air conditioning on this thing. Still has the coilover plates up there. I'm gonna do some really serious inspection on here, make sure there's no structural damage from the Magnum Force front end that was put on here. So, all right, well, plan is tomorrow we're gonna drop this off. Jamie's pulling apart 2 motors today, and Evan doesn't work on Wednesday, so that's our famous cart that we put the stuff on. So we're gonna drop out in the cart yesterday, so I'll show you some more video tomorrow when we get this thing dropped out. So we couldn't get the set screw off the steering column to get the steering column out, and I think we figured out why. Cracked bolt. Do they just use inferior parts all over this thing? That's kind of what it looks like. Back at it today. We're trying to get the exhaust off, and it will not come apart. So Evan literally had to take 2 straps to each side of this exhaust to pull the cross pipe off, and then used a giant piece of wood to pry it apart because it did not want to come apart, and it still won't come apart. So luckily on this exhaust system, the up pipe isn't as big as they usually are. So we actually just got this side out without too much trouble. So we're just gonna try to take out one piece, which is not really the way to do this. It's not welded, but if it won't come apart, it won't come apart. So hopefully this side comes out as good as the other side did. And there we go, exhaust out of the car. All right, I think we got pretty much everything out now. It's time to get the cart out and put the K member and transmission on the cart. So we'll pull the whole front Magnum Force K member at once, and then we'll have to pull the motor off the Magnum Force and then put it on the stock K member. So we basically just have the 2 cross member bolts in, and we're gonna get it down basically so it's on the cart. So I'll go down or while Evan watches, and then take out the cross member bolts, and we should be good to go. All right, Evan's going down. Okay, stop. Go up just a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, I think that's good. All right, gonna pop out the 2 cross member bolts in the back, and then undo the 4 K-member dumb Allen bolts that Magnum Force used.
4x4 went.
Where's Jamie when you need him? Usually he's the going under the car guy. Looks like it's me today. So basically, going to hammer out those 2 bolts, but there's a ton of pressure on them right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the jack underneath the tail shaft, just take the weight off. It'll balance on the cart okay. We may have to reset it a little bit, but I don't want it obviously falling off backwards here. So we're just gonna use the jack to take the pressure off that because I don't want that thing falling on my face. All right, bolts out, cross members up. So the next thing to do is to lift up the car and separate the body. We gotta get the camera bolts first. Don't forget those are important. All right, camera bolts out, and it dropped a little bit. So the other side should go down. Evan's working on the other side right now. And then we do the body lift, body drop. I think it's called body lift when you're doing it this way. All right, up we go. I just want to be 100% careful we're not missing anything here. Oh, hold on, go back down, go back down, go back down. You're hitting the alternator. Okay, this is where it's nice on the cart. So we just hit the alternator on the frame rail. Now we need to move the cart a little bit so we don't do that. All right, alternator cleared. Want to make sure we clear the inner fender here. Looks like we're good. Yep, keep going, Evan. Okay, yeah, that wire doesn't want to go. Okay, let me figure out why that neutral safety wire is not going. And that's how you do it. Car separated from Magnum front suspension. All right. Now we gotta figure out where to put this because Jamie took apart 2 motors yesterday, and there's no room in here anywhere. Good times. All right, Evan rolled this out of here, and now we're gonna separate it from the K-member, just with your little hoist. You should get the motor mounts off. You should come right off. Although I don't know if we got the hoist far enough in here. I guess we'll see in a minute. Remember when I said don't forget the motor mount bolts? Yeah, don't forget the motor mount bolts. Also, that's kind of weird. Fuel pump line's dented. Yeah. Yeah, I can't do this while filming. Okay, so like, everything on here is like way over torqued, which, I mean, okay, it's not gonna fall off, but yeah, we did forget the power steering, so it's all hooked up to the K-member. So what we're gonna do is just take the pump off, and then we'll drain this later on the ground so we don't make a giant mess, you know, everywhere. Motor just extracted, K-member off. This is a trick that Evan, I don't know, I've never seen anyone else do this, but Evan's pretty good at this. He just comes up with this stuff because he's a genius. So we have the Magnum Force K-member out, and then you just use a ratchet strap to tie the upper control arms together so they don't drag on the ground. And then it's on a nice little cart. We can move it around the shop wherever we need to. So we're really lucky that we had a 1967 Dodge Coronet 500 convertible we worked on a couple years ago. And he's a local guy, and he's an AC guy. He fixes beer fridges for a living. So whenever we need AC stuff, I always say, hey, Donkey, come over and help us out. So I, wanted to drain the system. We're gonna redesign these hoses. So the way they routed these was terrible. It goes over the back of the engine, hits the kickdown linkage, blah, blah, blah. Pretty sure I mentioned that before. So he just came over to drain the system, and it was already drained. It's already empty. And I texted my dad. I'm like, hey, I thought you said the AC worked. He says, nope, it never blew cold. So thanks, Dad, for telling me that. Awesome. More slow progress on the Road Runner today. Fortunately, the shroud is a little disabled. So luckily, I just got one in the big E-body hoard I got to replace it with. Evan got this beauty cleaned up today. Looks gorgeous. It is the correct 299-8328. The to-do list on this is growing faster every day. Faster, longer, I don't know. Like, there's a ton we could do to this motor to make it more correct. These are the wrong valve covers. There's a few other things that are wrong on here, but I don't know. My dad just kind of wants to get this back together. This is not like an OE 100-point show car, but it's just dumb stuff. Like, I was taking the power steering off, like this bolt just wouldn't come out, and this bracket is drilled wrong. So these bolt holes are actually slightly too far that way. So it's like an interference fit with a bolt here. And that one has to kind of fit there because the bolt actually recesses into there so it doesn't hit the pulley or the belts. So basically what Evan's gonna have to do is basically hog these out a little bit. It's an aftermarket bracket. I think Bushline Performance makes that, to put the aftermarket Sandin, Senko, I can never remember the name of the modern compressor, but the modern AC compressor that takes way less power than the original RV2. It allows you to mount that bracket there so you can run the modern compressor, and it doesn't take as much horsepower when you try to run your air conditioning. Okay, so funny story. So I thought these were cut. They actually aren't. That's the lower control arm stop. So the bumper goes right here on the lower control arm, goes up against that. The upper control arm stop is actually right here and is missing, but I thought this was cut, so I thought it was missing. And then I looked at it again on another car, and it's actually missing that bracket up there. So fortunately, we are hoarders here at Rocket Restorations and have a 67 Coronet out here, and I'm pretty sure it's different. Take a look. So we've had this 67 Coronet around here for a long time, which actually, funny enough, Jamie actually owned at one point, many owners ago. A friend of mine just literally gave this to me. His dad had a two-door post Coronet, was looking for a windshield for like 3 years, and bought this just for the windshield, and he gave me the rest of it. This thing's been a great source of parts over the years for Rocket, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. So Trev is currently working on taking some front suspension parts so we can get to it. So we're going to cut that off and then weld it on my dad's car, because I love Wildcat, but they wanted 125 a side, and it's a week out. And Trev's actually flying to India next week, and we need to get this done because he's our welder. I'm sure you've seen some of Jamie's welds. We want Trev to weld this, not Jamie. All right, got the other bracket back on, and Trev just painted it with some undercoating, which looks like it's boiling right now from the heat of the weld. It'll be fine. It's just gassing off, right? All right, I'm gonna try taking some video without the compressor going on in the background. Trev got these brackets welded back on last night. Looks awesome. Trev is an excellent welder and painter. He does a really good job here. He got the frame rail painted as well. So this was all bare metal down here because brake fluid is super caustic and leaked down from up top and killed all the paint on the frame rail. So Trev got that all painted and cleaned up last night. Paint match is not perfect, but it's really, really close. You know, when you're trying to match 15-year-old paint, it's pretty much impossible. But the good news is it's kind of down here on the frame rail. So I just wanted to look better. I didn't want the bare metal down there. That's never good to see. So yeah, we got all that done. So we'll probably do a little bit of rub out on that to, there's a little bit of orange peel. Rub that out a little bit to make it look a little better. And then the new brake lines are coming hopefully today, I think. And then Evan can get all that done. So we got a front brake line kit because they cut it for the Wilwood brakes. So we're gonna put the stock prop valves back on the stock brake lines, get all that in. Evan's got a bunch of cleanup to do in here. There's a lot of dirt and grime and stuff. So that's the engine cleaner bottle there and some paper towels. So Evan will spend an hour or two just cleaning up this engine bay because, you know, you might as well. Everything's out right now. It's really easy to get at everything. That's the aftermarket AC system that's in the car. I think it's a vintage air kit. So it just goes in the stock holes basically, but there's a couple holes in the firewall we got to fix. There's a bunch of vacuum lines going through there, so we made a grommet for that. Just a lot of cleaning up and fixing of this thing. So all right, Evan's almost finished detailing on the motor. We got the front end over here, so we basically got this stuff all cleaned up and painted and ready to go. All the fasteners are all ready. We didn't do, normally, you know, we can do like an OE front end kit on this. We're not worried about this. My dad's going to drive this car a lot. So normally we would cosmally dip the lower control arms. So for example, over here, these are the control arms for the Daytona that we're doing right now. And you know, they're completely OE, completely stock. But the problem with the Cosmoline is it always, no matter what you do, it always ends up being just a little bit sticky. So if you're driving it on the road, they just get dirty real quick. So when I talked to my dad about what he wanted to do on this, he wanted kind of a quote unquote clean restoration on it. So that's what we've done. So we're not leaving any bare metal in there. It's being painted. You know, we're doing, you know, the detail on the bolts and stuff. Everything's pretty close to stock, but you know, instead of doing some, you know, bare metal, we actually painted the stuff. So we haven't put the disc brakes on here yet because what we're going to do is put it on the cart first, because once you put the rotors on, it just gets real heavy real quick. So once Evan's done detailing the motor, we'll lift it off the cart, put the cam member on the cart, put the engine on, and then it'll be pretty close to ready to put in. As soon as Evan gets all the brake lines and everything done, and all the detail done in the engine bay. We got the battery tray painted too, because that was black, and it just looked terrible. And then Trev got the bolts too over here. So we're fixing a lot of stuff wrong with this car in the engine bay, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all back together. Can't decide if I'm sad or not if this one's going. It's a really clean car. Shout out to Free Master in New York who's saving this one. It went really, really cheap, but it's going to a good home. It's funny is when these cars go from the West Coast to the East Coast, he's going to see this thing and just can't believe how clean it is, because that's what all the cars look like out here. Whoa. Careful. Chris Free Messer. I hope I pronounced your name right, Chris, and I apologize if I didn't, but I do that. So we got carried away like we always do. There was just so much little stuff that needed to get painted. All the spark plug wire brackets were wrong. So we painted the balancer because it was black. It looked hideous. And then we also painted the gold pulley on the alternator, but then we found out the bearing's bad. So we're gonna have to replace that too. But Evan did a great job. So all the spark plug, quick spark plug brackets are here now. The heat shields, so see the little cup over there that protects the spark plug wire. Put that on. Spark plug wire bracket there, another one there. Still has the incorrect valve covers, but we got the right breather on it. Just a lot more correct, and this stuff's necessary. You know, Chrysler wouldn't spend money on a shield unless it was necessary. It's real easy to burn the spark plug wires on the exhaust manifold if you don't have all that stuff on there. So this is not a reference restoration engine, but we fixed about 20-30 things on this that were wrong, and it's just much more correct, and we're just trying to fix most of the functional stuff right now. The funny thing is everybody always talks about how it rains all the time here. It's actually been a fairly dry late fall, early winter so far, but yeah, that all changes today. We're supposed to get over an inch of rain today. Yay. Glad I did the driveway, because this becomes pretty much a quagmire after the first rain, but doing the driveway really helps with that. I don't believe it. There's actually a hole in the floor. I mean, it's not very big, but it's bigger than it usually is. And of course, it got taken up by something else immediately. We are painting the booster on my dad's road runner because it looked like dog poo. I don't know, something not good. And here's a steering box, got that all painted. So Evan was working on cleaning up the engine bay yesterday. Starting to look quite a bit better. And we got to put the fuel lines in. We got to get, so the prop valve system here is kind of weird on these later cars. So they actually have a check valve. That's so the rear brakes lock up after the fronts. So the prop valve on the inside was the one that they used, but they took off that original one, and of course didn't save it because, you know, why would you save original parts in case someone would want to go back to stock? But I digress. So we had to buy that aftermarket, that check valve. I didn't have any used ones on the shelf. So, yep. So booster go back on today. Finish up the brake lines, master cylinder. Finish cleaning up the engine bay, and I'm really hoping to have the engine in today. We'll see. All right, just got something kind of cool for this car. So this is actually my dad's Christmas present this year. It is currently before Christmas, but this video will go out after Christmas, so I can talk about it now. It'll still be a surprise for my dad. But these are really cool. These are something that my buddy Dan Pausch came up with, and let me take it out and I'll show you. So there's a bigger version and a smaller version. I'm just gonna take this one out because I want to make sure it gets back in one piece before my dad sees it. But these are really cool. So my buddy Dan Pausch, he runs Auto DNA by Dan Pausch. There's his email there if you want to order one of these. This was, I think, $130, but they're really, really neat. So he's got a lot of really good information on these. So it says obviously the car name, Plymouth Road Runner, the owner name, the factory options for that VIN number. It shows, it's really cool because since we have a broadcast sheet for this car, Dan can actually tell you when it was actually built. So the scheduled production date is C21, which is December 21st. So it was, yeah, that's when it was scheduled at the St. Louis assembly plant. But it was actually in plant in process on Thursday, the December 17th. And keep in mind, the SPDs around Christmas are a little weird because they usually took a week or two off around Christmas. So they're always a little bit odd, a little bit off. But, you know, just another thing that the scheduled production date means scheduled production date. It's not when it was actually built. It has all the standard equipment for the Road Runner, the heavy-duty shocks, front sway bar, dual exhaust, tips are still optional. Drip rail moldings, the beep beep horn, cigarette lighter, the armrests, oil pressure, all that fun stuff. And then here are all the options for it right here. The extra cost stuff. It actually does have wheelet moldings. Interesting. I didn't think this was supposed to have wheelet moldings. I guess I'm wrong about that. There's a dealer it was sold at, Presnell Motors, Inc. in Elizabethtown, Tennessee. Unfortunately, the building's no longer there. I looked it up on Google Maps. Total price of the real neat ones on this one is the EV2. So that was 12.2% of production. And then the three really rare options on this, the aerodynamic spoiler package, which includes front and rear spoilers, J78 and J81. The elastomeric bumper package. That's why my dad bought this car, because he's been looking for a rubber bumper car forever. And they just look so cool on these B-bodies. That was M73 for the front, M75 for the back bumper, and then the rear louver package as well. So those are both extremely rare options. So 4.6% on the spoilers, 1.6 on the bumpers, and 0.7% on the louvers. So that was out of total production. So they made 13,664 Road Runners US shipped in 1971. We don't have the export or Canadian figures, unfortunately. And so they made 96 cars with the rear louvers, 219 with the rubber bumper package, and 629, I can't talk, of the spoilers. And then that was the cost for it too. I'm really surprised more people didn't get the rubber bumpers, considering it was, you know, it was a nice thing to have. They looked really cool. It was $37.85. It really wasn't that much money. Here's all the other options here. Of course, all the standard stuff on the Road Runner, that was no cost. The AM radio was $66. Yeah, I just love all this stuff, all the different options and how much it costs and all that. These are really, really neat. So if you want to order one of these, again, it's Auto DNA by Dan Pausch. His email's right there, dhead68@hotmail.com. I can't recommend these enough. These are really cool. This is a sticker, so when you go to a car show, it'll just stick on your windshield or side window or rear window. And then you can just peel it off after the show. He also makes these in signboards as well. All right, we got the motor mostly together. Okay, little Tom rant going here in a second. So the alternator had a noisy bearing on it, and we didn't like it, so we ordered a new one. So I ordered from our local O'Reilly's. They're generally pretty good there, and they sent me a 7800 amp alternator from like a truck, like the big one. Like seriously, they didn't even make that in 71. So frustrating. And of course I had my dad pick it up and didn't catch it. So we'll put the alternator on after we get in. Evan's got all the power steering stuff together. We decided we're just gonna do the brakes afterwards. Evan thinks it's easier doing it, you know, up in the air in the car than doing it on. It also, you know, reduces the weight on the cart, which isn't a lot when you got a whole motor on here, but every little bit helps. So, all right, well, we are ready to drop the sucker down and get her back in. And down we go. Keep on going. Okay, stop. Looks pretty good here. Just remember, measure 20 times and drop it once. We're gonna hit the fuel line over here, but I can bend that out of the way. Okay, keep it going. Okay, fuel line's clear. Power steering's pretty close over here. All right, hold up. All right, that line should just bend out of the way, but let me double check. All right, Evans came up with these dingleberry things that drop down to get it kind of lined up. We were really, really close, but they just need to go like an inch to the passenger side. So it was like we're pretty close. Front end just needs to go a little bit my way. All right, so get it back down, get the bolts started, all 4 of them. Make sure they're loose, they're conical, so there's actually quite a bit of adjustment on this. So you wanna make sure you can get all 4 in at once before you take anything down. And then the next step is when you take it off the lift, the transmission is gonna come down. So basically what we do next is we put a tranny jack on the back of the transmission, and then you gotta put the transmission cross member right there, which is all ready to go. All the bolts all restored. So that's the next step. So we're gonna get the K-member bolts tightened up and then put the tranny cross member in. Then it's safe to go up and finish putting everything else back together. Went in pretty good. The biggest things you gotta watch out for is the exhaust manifold on the inner fender though. Those are kind of staggered for the way they're set up, so that one's in a little bit further than the back one. Manifold always gets real close to that. And on a power steering car, you see how close the power steering box is to the inner fender. That's what you gotta watch out for. The only thing that really tripped us up was we had installed this hose before it went in. Actually at the bottom of the tray when it went down, I heard it hit something and it didn't move, and so we just had to bend that over a little bit, but should be all good there. Yeah, went pretty easy. Evan's trying to get, there's always one bolt that fights you, and again, this is a K-member that didn't come out of this car, and I've seen this a lot where K-members can be bent slightly. So getting the 4 bolts to line up, especially when it didn't come out of this car. We had a car years ago that we straightened the frame on it and then put a different K-member in, and it just didn't fit. The K-member was bent, so that has happened to us in the past. All right, all 4 K-member bolts tight. Just basically do those by hand. We'll go back and retorque everything later. One thing we do is we'll go back and make sure everything's torqued and cotter pinned. Evan will do that every nut bolt and fastener on the suspension. Everything's kind of just laid in there now. So the reason why we don't finish putting this together is Evan can torque this stuff when it's in the car, so you can get a lot more leverage on it. It's really hard to do that on the ground. So, all right, next task is Evan's down there, going to put the back of the jack on the back of the tranny, and then get the tranny cross member in. You don't have to finish the job. You just got to basically get 2 bolts in. You don't even really need to put nuts on them. You just need to have it so the tranny doesn't fall backwards, because what'll happen is, I've seen this before, is you actually rip the motor mounts and the whole engine will just tilt way backwards when you go up with it, and then you gotta somehow get the transmission up in the back to get the cross member in. So this is the way we've done it. It works pretty good. So all right, time to go up, then we can get all the underside stuff done. Another important thing to note is make sure it's balanced. You know, you just added 600 pounds plus to the front of this car. Make sure it's balanced, but this is where it was when we took it out, and it was pretty good. So it should be good to go, but always double check. You don't want to get way too much front or rear balance on your hoist and it falls off. That would be bad. Yeah, I didn't want to crawl underneath and take video footage, so I waited till it went up. But yeah, so you just get the 2 bolts in there, not even any nuts. It's all good to go. We'll get the other 2 in, get all 4, put the nuts in, and go through and torque everything. So yeah, that's the big step of the process is done. Motor is back in the car. Now there's, you know, of course, 10,000 other things to do, but that's the big job. You know what's really annoying is when you don't drain the block because we didn't think we needed to, and it's tilted forward just a hair, then it spills coolant all over the floor. Sorry. All right, Evan's got the tranny back together. He's gonna try to do all the suspension all at one time, so yeah. All right, it's December 23rd, Christmas Eve's tomorrow and Christmas, so we'll get back to this after Christmas. And if anybody's watching this, after the fact, but I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. All right, quite a bit more progress today. Got these shocks in the, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. Upper control arms in, spindles on, torsion bars are in, just like God and Walter P. Chrysler intended. And everything's cotter pinned and kind of torqued in here except for the tie rods because we still have to line this thing. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but we couldn't find the wheel seal for the rotors, or else that would probably be done today. So Evan called it quits a little bit early just because, well, we didn't have the wheel seal. So ordered them from O'Reilly's, and hopefully they come in here tomorrow. But today's Friday, so it'll probably be Monday till we get back to this thing. All right, a little bit more on the shocks. So personally, I am not a huge fan of the KYBs. They work fine. They're a good cheap shock, if I can talk here. They are a good cheap shock. Yeah, I got it out. You know, it's like 120 bucks for 4. But I really like the Bilsteins. I've had a ton of experience with these, and they make the car ride and handle way better. So I got this set of Bilsteins for my buddy John. He had them on a 70 Coronet, and I thought they were gonna fit, and I'm not sure what was going on here. So I've been trying to find the part number. I was trying to figure out what this front shock is, but it just seemed like it was short. It was a good 2 inches shorter than the KYB, and it seemed like at full droop, it was gonna pull the top out of the shock basically. So we didn't run them. Also, it's got a really goofy like front rubber piece. So that rubber piece basically had to go through the shock opening through the bottom. Then it was supposed to sit in that groove there. We tried for a while to get that in there, and it just didn't want to go. I'm not saying it wouldn't go, but it didn't want to. So basically what we did is I wasn't sure what was going on there. So we just kind of gave up. I'm going to put KYBs on. I've always got a set of these on the shelf in the shop because we put them on pretty much everything. Again, KYBs aren't bad. They're way better than probably what you have on there now. They're just they just kind of ride a little harsher with the gas. The Bilsteins are much better. The Bilsteins are also quite a bit more expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy a full set of these from online, just so I know what I have, and I compare them to these. I got a really good deal on these from my buddy John because he ended up not using them on the Coronet, and they were all like primered and stuff because they were on the car when the bodywork was done. So I haven't restored them all and everything, but as I said, for now I'm just gonna put the KYBs on, and my plan is in the future to put Bilsteins on. And in fact, what I may do is, since people really liked this last time, is I may do a comparison. I'll drive it with the KYBs on it and then put the Bilsteins on it because I'm really curious to go back and forth and see what the difference is. So that's probably the plan. But it's Friday, it's about 5 o'clock. So it's not just 5 o'clock somewhere, it's 5 o'clock here. So a couple problems today. Jamie's in. Just found that in the tread of the tire. Should probably take that out of there. Also, I was trying to put the front wheels on, and the one over here has been over torqued and the center is warped. So it will not fit over the rotor. So now we're trying to figure out what to do with that, because the old Wilwood brakes are non-hub centric. So someone probably just over torqued it. So now we need to figure out how to get that wheel on, because we can't align it without getting the wheel on. And that's the whole reason Jamie's here today, is to align this car. Good times.
Idea.
I'm as curious as you all are.
Oh, I'm just gonna beat it savagely with a hammer and try and
Oh yeah, look at that warp.
Oh, it's really bad.
I can see that from here.
Yep, and again, because of the way these are made with that recessed area, someone just reefed these tight, and as it flexed that, I think it deformed this edge, and that's what's hitting. So
Perfect.
I'm gonna carefully try to knock those back where they go, and we'll see if it just solves the problem. And if not, we'll massage this a little bit too.
We'll make this work one way or another. Sigh. One fun thing about working in a restoration shop is there's stuff you see every day that you've never seen before. I swear, every time I work on a car, I've been doing this for a long time, you always see something. Never seen this one before.
One entire forever later, it fits.
All right, more fun with aftermarket parts. So we're trying to figure out what the deal is. So I needed sway bar bushings, and of course I forgot to order them. So I looked through the hoard, which, let me show you my sway bar hoard. So I actually spent a significant portion of last week, figured Christmas week, not much was going around, trying to reorganize my shelves a little bit. So we've always had a bunch of these bins before, you know, chokes, bumper guards, but it was all just kind of everywhere back here with like zero organization. So what I'm trying to do is consolidate some of these boxes and put them in alphabetical order so we can actually find them. So here's a list of each bin that we have, and I basically still need to go through and I guess consolidate. I need to clear off some more shelves too, because this stuff's just packed right now. But yeah, so, but now I know where all the sway bar stuff is. It's all in one box. So we have all the sway bar stuff in here. So every once in a while, you know, if we need stuff, that's like C-body one there, B-body end links, you know, everything's all organized in one place. And it makes it way easier to find. So I found these NOS, you know, vintage Moog sway bar bushings, but there's several problems here. So I looked these up on Rock Auto. That's generally my go-to. I don't necessarily always order from them, but they have the best parts catalog on there. And you see these and they just stick up way up. So these are supposed to be flush on there. So if you try to put that in there, they stick up like a 1/4 inch. And I think that may be right. Obviously it's aftermarket, so it's not going to fit correctly, but I just ordered a new set from O'Reilly's just because I want to see what the new ones look like. The other problem is the sway bar diameter. So a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually 3 different sway bar sizes on an E-body. I think it's 3, maybe it's 2. I know it's 3 on B-body. I'm pretty sure it's 3 on the E-body too. Keep in mind, I'm giving you metric measurements just because I was just looking this up on Rock Auto. I don't know what the translation is, but according to them, they have 22, 23, and 24 sizes for the bushings, for the 3 sizes. So this one is supposedly 24 according to Rock Auto and that Moog part number. But saying that, I measured this and it's like 19 millimeters and the bar is 22 millimeters, which is the smaller one. So I don't know what's going on. So I called O'Reilly's. They said theirs is 21 or 22, which I think that'll fit. So I'm going to get that tomorrow at the parts store and we'll see if it fits or not. So fortunately, we do not have to have the sway bar on to finish the alignment. So Jamie's working on that right now. We're setting ride height. Jamie's currently doing the alignment on this. And we actually got this from an old Chrysler dealer. Pit Star Equipment. I mean, just a generic Hunter rack, but it's actually branded Mopar, which is kind of cool. I got sick of sending these out because it was total pain in the butt. We had to send it all the way across town. It took an entire day. Had to drop it off, pick it up, and they never did a very good job. So we're just doing them ourselves now. Although Jamie hates doing them. Get back underneath there. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. So there's a brace underneath here, and guess what? It's broken. Yay. You know why it's broken? Because the coilover suspension goes to the top of here and it puts too much stress up there and it broke that bracket. So yay. So I listed the old key member on Facebook Marketplace last night, and apparently I listed it way too cheap because I have like 100 people who want to buy it. So now I got to figure out how to ship this thing, which I really didn't want to have to do, but that's just kind of the way it works. So this is about $8,000 new, but it's also 15 years old and I don't really like it. So I put it up for $2,000 and apparently that was way too cheap. So, but you know what? It'll be $2,000 to go towards the swap to help offset the cost of putting all the stock parts on here, and it's going to go away. And if you want an example why people bring stuff to us, the stuff on the right is all the fasteners that were holding the steering column in. Those are all part store crap. None of it was right. None of it worked. In fact, those are the base plate, the floor plate bolts. They just went right through the hole. They were so small, they didn't even hold the plate in. So, you know, I did a video last week about the fleet here and all the parts car we have. This is why we have all that stuff. So Evan just spent 15 minutes out in the yard and pulled all the stuff we needed for this car. So we have all the correct bolts, all the right fasteners. Like those washers weren't even there. That stuff's very necessary to have on there. The steering column is designed to break in an accident. If you don't have the right stuff on there, it won't do that correctly. You know, most restoration shops will just throw the other crap in. We won't. We're gonna put the correct stuff in there, and not because it's right, but because it's correct, and it's honestly a safety issue. They also didn't have the steering column ground cable, which can cause a bunch of issues in and of itself. So yeah, there we go. Right stuff going back in. Wow, sun. I haven't seen that in like a month. So if you recall earlier in the video, we tried to install these Bilstein shocks that we had, and they supposedly came off with a 1970 Coronet. I bought them from a buddy of mine, but we noticed that they were a little bit too short, so we put the KYBs on. Well, just ordered some new Bilsteins, and it looks like they are definitely taller. So that's the current number on that. So I do have the part number on that one. I'm gonna call them and see what that fits. Maybe if it's for a lowered spindle car or something like that. But yeah, so the correct ones that came in are definitely good. So we're gonna put these on next week. And now we got her back together running. There's still a very long list of stuff to do on this. Anytime you take a car apart this much, and there's a bunch of stuff that still needs to get fixed on it. But yeah, it's running, driving. I'm about to go take it out for test drive. Jamie just got it aligned, I guess. Still need to do blackout, and also we're trying to fix how the AC lines were routed on this. They went like up over here and over the engine. They were in the kickdown linkage, and so we thought we could just put the compressor up like that, but this is actually the first time we put the air cleaner on, so yeah, that's not gonna fly, but we'll fix that. Jamie's still gotta do some tuning on this too, but all right, let's go for the test drive. Let's see how she drives with torsion bars. All right, maiden voyage. We put it together. It had some weird wiring for the tacks. We had to fix that, so that's working now. My dad decided to put a tough wheel on it. I'm not sure about that choice. I mean, tough wheel's a little better looking, but I don't know. I've just never been a huge fan of these aftermarket wheels, but you know, that's what my dad wants. So it's a little smaller, so it's a little easier getting out of here. There's the original wheel there. Of course, we'll hold on to that, and if that needs to get fixed, we'll do it. That's the AC duct, so we still got to fix all that, but there's a bunch left to do. But I just wanted to give you a test drive just to show you how she feels. One thing I noticed too, we got the driveway done not that long ago. It's crushed asphalt that they kind of like roll over. It's great. It's way better than gravel. But when you have new tires, they really stick to the new tires. So we just put new shoes on this thing, and I gotta go really slow up the driveway so it doesn't, like, you know, throw rocks at the fresh paint. This is a road I like to go down and test drives. There's a little patch over here that has a bunch of tree roots going over the road, so it's really bumpy, so you can really get a good idea how the car rides. I don't think it's currently flooded, which is good. This car always ran really nice. So we've done the alignment twice now. First time it was pulling to the right a little bit, and it looks like it's still pulling a little bit to the right. At least the steering wheel's straight. Doing alignments is more of an art than a science. I mean, there's specs to where you're supposed to be, but the specs are always set up for, you know, bias ply tires and stock tires, which this does not have. Sorry, I had to stop here and stop by the elk viewing spot. This is like the fog's rolling in, the elk are just sitting out there. How cool. And a Road Runner. Just amazing. I'm gonna take some pictures. Wow, somebody's having some fun here. That's a limited slip axle. All right, that was really cool, but we're losing daylight here, so let's head back to the shop. Fog's kind of rolling in here. You know, what's interesting is with that rack and pinion setup, they definitely felt more road feel with it. But on this, I don't know, it just feels more like a Mopar. The ride's definitely better with this. Those coilovers, and they just ride like rocks. They ride so hard. It's just really annoying. It's like almost a punishing ride. And I know they're adjustable, but I don't know. I just like torsion bars. So, and then we end up putting KYBs on this instead of the Bilsteins. And the plan is, we ordered some Bilsteins for it because those, I've had better luck with those. So we're actually gonna do a comparison test next week and try the KYBs versus the Bilsteins. So right now it's got KYBs on it. So all right, let's hit that rough patch of road and I'll show you how it does. It gets a little bouncy through here. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a bump here. There's a bunch of trees along here and it kind of tears up the road a little bit, but I don't know. When I took this on the other one and it was bouncing all over the place, this one, it's very well controlled. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that video. There's that comparison video in like the late 50s, early 60s where they have a Mopar with torsion bars and they have coil springs on like a Cadillac and a Lincoln, and they basically like jump in the air and like destroy themselves. You know, that's what torsion bars do. They ride really well. All right, well, I think that's a wrap up. I said there's still a bunch left to do on this, bleed the brakes, a few other little things, but yeah, I love going back to stock. Like that Magnum Force stuff, I'm just not convinced it works, and it's going bye-bye. We're now back to stock. So basically, I think we're done with this. I'm gonna do one more video on this. We're gonna do a comparison of, you know, KYB shocks versus Bilsteins. That'll happen pretty soon. So it's getting dark and the windows are fogged up. I need to put this thing back away. I just want to let you guys know too, like, we're not overhauling here. This didn't happen over a week. This happened over like a month plus. You'll notice during this video, I mean, it's a week after New Year's now. You know, I mentioned Christmas, I mentioned New Year's a few times in this. Like, this stuff takes time. Like, no matter what we do, we're always working on different things. We always got a lot of different stuff going on. So this one took a month and a half to get finished. So, but I'm really impressed with the result. I think my dad's gonna be super happy. Just got a few more things to button up on this and get it back to him. So this is Tom from Rocket Restorations. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.